Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We will continue our discussion on practical examples in this lecture again. And in this lecture, we are going to discuss on file access technique. The most common technique. We will apply its code and see how it generates the results. So let's begin. This is the agenda of today's discussion. We will see what is file access, as we have already discussed in chapter 9. And the most common technique for file accessing or data access is random access. So random access method will be discussed, and then its code will be applied to see how it works practically, and at the end the output of the sample code will be discussed. So let's continue our discussion with the first topic, file access. This is actually the recapitulation of what we have already discussed in chapter 9. File access means to access data from a file or within a file. That means retrieving data within a file is actually known as file access. We can also call it data access. Accessing data from a file is quite interesting activity, and different techniques have been proposed for accessing data within a file. We have discussed different techniques such as sequential access, random access in chapter 9. But the most common file access technique is random access that we most commonly observe in computers. You randomly click on some file and it gets open for you. There is no selection criteria, no searching criteria. So this is the most common and easiest way of accessing data from within the file, or accessing file from within a file system. So let's now proceed for what is random access method and how it works. Random file access, as we have already discussed in chapter 9, here the records or the data is organized randomly. That means having no specific order. So the data is organized randomly, or they can be organized using some proper techniques such as in alphabetical order, in size of the files, the size according to the file size. So there are different ordering techniques, but how we can access them is directly. This is also known as direct access method. So here the data or record is accessed directly by physical addresses on a direct access storage device. For example, you open a drive in your computer and different files are visible to you, and you randomly or directly click on any file and it gets opened. File organization may be, or the sorting of file may be done through some technique, but the file access is random. There is no specific criteria, no specific technique, no specific searching or selection criteria is applied to access the file or accessing record or data from the file. The most common example of random access is your disk, as I just mentioned. When you click on some disk, you will find a lot of files stored on the disk. and you can randomly click on any file, it gets open for you. So random file access is the most common and most easy way to access data or records within the file system. Next, we are going to discuss how random access method can be applied through code. This is a code snippet for random file access. The complete code is provided in Word document attached on KCMS. You can get the complete code from there. In this code, we are going to provide user details the way normally banks store user data, their complete name, first name, last name, and their respective account details. So we are going to store different user entries in shape of a record, and then we are going to find particular user and its complete record from the file already created. So when you will apply this code, we are now going to observe its output. When you will execute this code, you will see the following output. This code will create a file that will contain information about client, such as user first name, client's first name, last name, its bank details, the balance respectively, or you can store any type of information. You can also make it for user, such as username, its semester, its subjects, its grades accordingly. At the end, the code will display the information of all the users line by line as a ledger. You can even enter name of a specific user, a specific client, and its complete record will be randomly found or retrieved from complete file and displayed in front of you. So this is an interesting activity, interesting code. I hope you will apply it and observe the results, how data is stored in the file, and then how the respective data is retrieved from the file using random access technique. That is all for now. I thank you all.